Donal MacIntyre, investigative journalist best known for his fearless work confronting dangerous criminal organisations, is on a mission to uncover the modern face of international crime. Travelling with him to some of the world's best known cities, we'll meet members of the criminal underworld, police and local residents to discover what life is really like in the world's toughest towns. We've come to a place that is home to one of the richest and most dangerous criminal organisations in the world.
For me, it's terrifying, and I'm clinging on inches to my life.
A city that is nearly 3,000 years old.
There are people trying to stare me down.
We're in Naples, Italy, to uncover the dark side of a beautiful city that is steeped in culture and history. Surrounded by the stunning scenery of Pompeii and Vesuvius, visitors flock to Naples in search of peace and relaxation. Drawn by an historical romanticism that everyone knows and loves. Home to 3 former popes and the birthplace of pizza, Naples has a rich and vibrant past that has seen its city streets granted World Heritage Site status. On these same streets, a war is raging. A criminal organisation called the Camorra has grown into a rival for the state, developing a vice-like grip over the city with business interests totalling €30 billion a year. It is estimated that there are over 7,000 active Camorra members in Naples, who operate in about 100 separate clans, 5 times as many as the Sicilian mafia, known as the Cosa Nostra. They have been responsible for nearly 4,000 murders in the past 30 years. Now Italy, a member of the G8 and one of Western Europe's richest countries, has been forced to send in the troops to regain control of the streets. Donal's here to find out why Naples has become the murder capital of Europe, and to explore the influence of the Camorra in every corner of this city.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is a modern European country. And here you have this lawlessness here. You know, look at it. Honestly, scenes like this, as pervasive this, you'd hardly recognize it if it was even in Calcutta or India. And here you are in one of the wealthiest kind of first world economies in the world. And look at it. The place is run by gangsters. And the state and the police and the force of law and order are really struggling. I think we're supposed to go down there. I mean, this is a public road actually blocked by rubbish. Look at that.
The Camorra have been in charge of waste management for 20 years. And now, with the dumps full, garbage is spilling out onto the streets. Donal wants to find out more about the main players of the Camorra and to see if there's a chance to meet with them. So he's arranged to visit the Squadron Mobile, the police squad that investigates organised crime here. The man responsible for bringing the Camorra to justice is Vittorio Pisani.
Who are your number 1 targets in the Camorra?
I camorristi più ricercati sono I 2 fratelli Russo Pasquale e Russo Salvatore. Questo è Scotti Pasquale, lui è latitante dall'84. Questo è Zaccaria Michele, anche questa è una foto dei primi anni 90. Questi sono i latitanti, diciamo, più importanti. Ho visto che hanno inserito nell'elenco dei 30 latitanti più pericolosi un altro latitante casalese, quello che avevo detto prima, Iovine Antonio. È colui che, diciamo, in questo momento è un esponente principale del clan dei casalesi. Questo è di Lauro Marco.
Vittorio tells Donal that his chances of meeting a camorrista who will talk to him are slim. He has invited Donal to accompany his elite high-speed motorbike unit on a raid that evening. As Donal leaves police headquarters, he passes more soldiers on the street. Clearly, he's in more than just a tough town here. He's looking to expose a criminal organisation that is far deadlier than any street gang. But if he's going to find out how the Camorra has become a way of life in the city, he's going to have to delve deeper into the Neapolitan underworld. Donal MacIntyre is in Naples, Italy, to find out why a civil war is raging on the streets of this beautiful city. Here they have a phrase: see Naples and die. The phrase was coined 200 years ago to describe Naples' beauty, but now it alludes to the deadly power of the region's greatest menace, the city's criminal mafia, the Camorra. Donal's on his way to police headquarters to meet up with the members of the elite flying squad who are planning a raid on a known drug and gun dealer. The team are gathered in the briefing room. Donal knows that the flying squad are an elite unit, but reckons that these faces wouldn't look out of place on a wanted poster. The flying squad need to move quickly, and on the busy streets of Naples, that means cars are ditched in favour of high-powered motorbikes.
Perché la situazione logistica di Napoli necessita del fatto della presenza delle motociclette, che comunque con le macchine non si riesce, soprattutto nel centro, a svolgere un adeguato controllo del territorio, sia per il traffico, sia per i veicoli stretti, sia per il tipo di criminalità che c'è, che comunque utilizza prevalentemente mezzi di locomozione su due ruote.
None of the officers wear crash helmets, and some have been injured.
Appartengono a un clan camorristico della zona e durante un inseguimento in una curva in un vicoletto stretto siamo caduti e io con la mano e la strada era bagnata. Sicuramente qualche persona, i secchi d'acqua per evitare il fermo di queste due persone.
Italy has one of the worst road safety records in Europe, and motorbikes are involved in over half of them. So Donal asks if he can have a crash helmet. But he's told that for his own safety, it would be better not to wear one.
They say they don't want us to wear helmets because the Camorra wear helmets when they're on hits, and police officers don't. So when we're in their company on their bikes, neither will we.
When 12 high-powered motorbikes scream out of police HQ, it attracts a lot of attention. They need to get to their destination quickly before the target is tipped off. Consequently, the few road rules there are in Naples are ignored. Donal hangs on for dear life as they race through back streets and narrow alleyways to get to the suspect's house. With daredevil determination, the squad are flying through red lights, up one-way streets, and even onto the pavement.
I don't want to die!
After a hair-raising journey, the bikes arrive in San Giovanni, part of the notorious Secondigliano quarter. 7 kilometres out of the centre, this area is a thriving drug district where clans sell everything from cocaine to cannabis. The police warned Donal to refrain from talking in front of the camarista, as this would identify him as a foreign journalist and might make him a target.
The guys are waiting, trying to gain entrance into a house where a major Camorra family lives. They're having problems, they're hanging out. This is a very strong neighbourhood.
This house is in the middle of one of Naples' poorest neighbourhoods. And yet, there is gold-plated china in the cabinets, and the walls are adorned with pictures of the suspected camarista and his family. Tellingly, the door is made of 3-inch thick steel, and there's even an escape hatch to the roof. But the suspect is not worried. Despite having 20 police officers searching his house, he's super cool, and more concerned about providing hospitality.
Faccio qualche caffè. Guarda, ne fanno poco, giù una macchinetta. Io sono la casa. Ma che ci soldi stanno? Aspetta un po'. Ma che ci soldi ti trovo? Sono fatto pure io.
Despite a vigorous search, the squad can't find anything and are forced to leave empty-handed. This is a perfect example of how difficult it is for the police to fight the war against the Camorra. They find a wealthy man living in a poor suburb with no obvious explanation as to how he got all his money. But they are unable to find incriminating evidence proving criminal activity, and so are forced to leave. For police units fighting against the Camorra in Naples, their powers are curbed by the law, whereas the Camorra are bound only by their ruthless imagination.
I think it's fair to say they are an elite motorbike force, a squad the like of which I've never seen or encountered before, having been around the world, to see the bravery, the courage and the daring do without health and safety, because these guys are living and breathing a battle against a very dangerous and difficult force. And you know what? That has to breed a little sense of kamikaze policing about it. And you know, this is what they do. And I'm just glad my shift is nearly over.
The Italian Justice Department has already warned Donal that he has arrived in Naples at a dangerous time. Recently, a number of journalists have been targeted and placed under police protection because of their work uncovering crime in the city.
It's Donal MacIntyre from London.
Donal has arranged to meet a Neapolitan journalist to find out how real the threat in Naples is.
A pleasure.
Rosaria Capaccioni has been a reporter in Naples for 20 years. But after serious threats to her life, the police have assigned 2 bodyguards to protect her. Only 4 weeks before Donal's arrival, her house was burgled despite 24-hour police protection. Jewels and cash were left untouched. Only an award for her journalism was taken. This was a message to Rosaria to keep quiet.
When foreign journalists come in and ask the same questions, do they face the same threats?
Se tu scrivi dell'omicidio, dei fatti di sangue più evidenti, non si arrabbiano, non si arrabbiano. Quando scrivi dei loro affari, quando scrivi delle cose che magari non sono state ancora scoperte dalla polizia o dalla magistratura, oppure...
Donal wants to know which areas are considered the most dangerous in Naples.
C'è la zona di Scampia, di Secondigliano, tutte quelle parti là che sono pesantemente compromesse, intere famiglie fanno parte della Camorra. La provincia di Caserta è un'altra cosa, cioè è come la Sicilia, qui è come la Sicilia. Quindi personalmente io consiglio sempre di andare accompagnati dalla polizia.
Casal di Principe is a suburb of Naples and only a 20-kilometre drive from the port. Vittorio, his contact at the mobile squad, tells Donal this is where some of Italy's most wanted criminals come from. Donal has discovered that of the 20,000 residents, 3,000 were under police surveillance and 2,000 have already been arrested. The government considers Casal di Principe such a major threat, it has sent in 500 troops to patrol the streets.
For a European country to surrender the civil streets to their national army, that is something extraordinary and exceptional, but it does tell a story of the threat that the Camorra pose.
Donal is determined to find out more about this neighbourhood. But it's so dangerous that the police insist he can only go in with an escort. On the edge of town, he meets up with Silvana Giusti from the DIA, the anti-mafia police.
Thank you very much for having
She
us.
tells him the DIA are planning an operation targeting a known Camorra boss and that he can come along.
Let's go.
Okay, let's go.
As Donal enters the town, he can see a lot of villas are being built and expensive cars on the streets. But the unemployment figures for Casal di Principe are close to 90%. So where has all this money come from?
And up ahead, there are some troops. There's some army on the streets there.
Donal is heading to the town hall with Silvana and the DIA. They need to gain final permission to conduct their operation.
Noi stiamo qui davanti al municipio di Casal di Principe perché questa mattina dobbiamo andare a formalizzare dei provvedimenti di sequestro di numerose abitazioni e terreni. Tant'è che abbiamo avuto esempi di case affittate a militari della NATO di Gricignano d'Aversa.
This embarrassing story had made news just before Donal arrived in Naples. Camorra kingpin Antonio Iovine, wanted for murder and one of Italy's top 30 fugitives, was found to have been renting out a property to a NATO officer. Once the permits are granted, Silvana and the DIA can serve the warrant against the NATO house.
Here, within minutes of us arriving, there are people trying to stare me down from a very expensive Mercedes car, looking very wealthy, and then they pull the head away when the camera is faced with. So there's a definite attempt at intimidating us as a film crew and for me as a journalist.
Donal approaches the people living in the house to find out if they know their landlord is from the Camorra.
Good morning. Good morning.
I understand you've been supporting the Camorra by accident. Is that all right if you have a chat?
Yes.
Your story's been well reported that you accidentally, like a number of other NATO employees, found yourself renting from the Camorra.
Yeah, it was by pure accident. We have a great arrangement here. We live in a lovely home, and the landlord is a great individual. And out of the blue, we find Minister of Finance show up in our house one day and give us the bad news that the house was sequestered for anti-mafia reasons, which was a total shock. Now, granted, we knew that that Casal di Principe had a reputation of supporting the Camorra, but we never knew it was going to hit home.
As they leave, they receive more intelligence about NATO inadvertently funding the Camorra.
So it seems from our police sources who've just been in contact with the NATO top brass, it seems this case of renting from the Camorra is not just a one-off. The NATO top brass, we believe, according to police sources, think that up to 2,000 of their properties are rented from the Camorra at anything from 2,500 to 3,500 euros a month. And it means that up to 50 million euros every year is fueling the coffers of the Camorra. That's extraordinary.
We're with Donal MacIntyre in Naples, the murder capital of Europe, and home to one of the richest criminal organisations in the world. It's here that the Camorra's activities have have resulted in over 4,000 murders, turning the streets of Naples into a bloodbath.
C'è stato un episodio proprio non lontano da questa zona, fu quindi attaccata da questo comando e ne fu fatta quindi anche un'esecuzione.
The Camorra's control over the city has led them to become a rival from the state, part of the organised crime business in Italy, which turns over £1 trillion every year.
More rubbish.
The Camorra are responsible for the rubbish on the streets. Like the fictional Sopranos, they are involved in waste disposal. But with the city dumps full, the Camorra are allowing rubbish to spill out onto the streets. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. For the past 20 years, the Camorra have secretly brought down toxic waste from Italy's industrial north and dumped it in and around the city of Naples. Now, the poison buried beneath this lush agricultural farmland is seeping to the surface, affecting the region's biggest export, buffalo mozzarella.
Per quanto riguarda le bufale, delle alimentazioni, delle derrate alimentari che però vengono coltivate nei nostri suoli, nei nostri terreni, tipo l'erba medica, una quantità di diossina tale che poi si è ritrovata nel latte. Diciamo, mangiare oggi prodotti locali, avendo questa consapevolezza, diciamo, fa un certo incute timore, io ho paura di mangiare, infatti perché comunque so quello che avviene intorno.
But the dumping of toxic waste doesn't just affect the livestock. Amongst the residents that live near the toxic dumps, cancer rates have soared by 30%.
Tutti quanti siamo, diciamo, contaminati. Abbiamo un tale livello di inquinamento che è paragonabile a quello della radioattività, diciamo, di Chernobyl. Noi siamo abituati a vedere Napoli come una cartolina, Napoli è bellissima, è stata ridotta, la nostra regione l'hanno distrutta veramente.
Nobody knows how much has been dumped over the years. Nobody knows what actually has been dumped or where it's been dumped. And the other real problem is no one's too keen to find out those answers because it's only going to be bad news. One, you're going to have to clear it up. Two, it's going to damage everything from tourism all the way to farm exports. It's just a disaster. And of course, to deal with it, you're going to have to take on the Camorra. Look, the Garden of Italy, what a disgrace. What a disgrace.
But the Camorra aren't just about toxic mud and radioactive sludge. Their business tentacles also stretch to the glamorous world of fashion. Many Neapolitan textile factories are controlled by the Camorra, and they use them to make fake high-end Italian fashion items. These fake products are distributed around the world, but you can also buy them on the streets of Naples.
€20. And how much would it normally cost?
Wherever you shop in Naples, there's a chance you will be subsidising the Camorra. One of their biggest earners is mafia tax or pizzo, a monetary gift demanded from shopkeepers in return for protection. Silvana Fucito runs a hardware store, and like 80% of the other shop owners in the city, she has been menaced by the Camorra for the pizzo tax. When she refused to pay, the Camorra turned up on her doorstep.
Mettevano la pistola sul tavolo, sul banco e dicevano o paghi o ti facciamo saltare, ti spariamo, proprio perché sapevamo di avere il negozio sotto un palazzo di 7 piani, non pensavamo che potessero arrivare a tanto e mettere in discussione la vita di centinaia di persone.
Then one winter's evening, the Camorra poured petrol through the letterbox of the shop and burnt it down.
Perché veramente posso dire che dopo 24 ore la nostra vita è completamente cambiata, ma non solo la vita nostra personale, che può essere relativa, è cambiata Napoli, è successo veramente una sorta di miracolo che ha dato la possibilità un po' a tutti i napoletani di risvegliarsi e di portare all'attenzione nazionale.
Silvana has become the figurehead for the fight against Piso, an extortion racket that earns Italian mafias over 33 billion euros a year. But because of her stance, Silvana is now forced to travel with 2 armed police guards wherever she goes. Proving that if you stand up against the Camorra in Naples, you will need police protection.
Napoli è una città tormentata, una città dove niente funziona. Allora è una città completamente allo sbando.
The Camorra has interests in legitimate Neapolitan business. But Donal has discovered that they are also involved in the drugs trade, a business that earns them nearly €500,000 every day. To find out more, Donal is heading to Scampia, the biggest open-air drugs market in Europe.
Now we're coming into Scampia, which is a stronghold of the Camorra. And it's pretty dank and dark and desolate. But we've been told that by the police not to come in here by ourselves. So we've had to talk to our sources to let those who run this area, the capos, the family bosses, know that we're in here doing a documentary. And here on the entrance to Scampia, we have the police and an army roadblock. Now that is extraordinary. The civil street, I've seen this in Northern Ireland, you see it in Africa, but you don't see it in any other place in Europe. Extraordinary that the police come in here with an army escort.
Scampia is completely controlled by Camorra clans. Before Donal can enter, our sources have to negotiate with the capos in charge who grant permission for Donal to film in the infamous La Vela estate. There are conditions for filming which include not identifying any Camorra and no police escort for Donal. The Camorra have lookouts on the entrances and main roads of the estate. They signal to the bosses if an unknown car is seen driving in. Donal's car attracts their attention and is forced to stop.
Cut filming, yeah? Cut film. Stop. Come on.
The sentinels approach the car. Our team try to negotiate with them, but it's too late. The car is surrounded.
And now we're surrounded by drug dealers and drug addicts and...
One of them makes a call to the capo of the area, but then suddenly, things turn ugly. The camera is seized and Donal is told to get out of the car.
Okay.
Thankfully, our contact is able to negotiate with the sentinels to let him go.
So we've had a bit of an incident. One of the sentinels in the Scampia Lavellas called us over, stopped us from filming, took our camera, took the tape, threatened to take the camera away for good. It was very, very aggressive. I don't think we were in danger, but certainly our equipment was. We'd already hidden all the recorded tapes in the car and replaced the tape in the camera with a blank tape. So, you know, the worst was going to happen and we were going to lose an expensive camera and a tape. But as it happened, we talked a way out of it, and now we're considering going back. We'll see if we can get in without being abused or harassed.
After further negotiation, Donal is finally allowed into the estate. This is one of the toughest and most lawless housing estates in Europe. With 50% of the population unemployed, the Camorra thrives here. Dealers earn up to €200 million every year from drug sales in this area. And it's the place where drug addicts from across Naples and Italy come to buy the cheapest high-grade heroin and crack cocaine in the EU.
Now, even just a random place, you see the needles everywhere, right? A square metre, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I mean, there's about 12 needles.
As Donal is filming on the stairs of La Vela, he is joined by 2 sentinels who are under orders to watch him. They don't want to be identified. These 2 young low-level camarista are at the bottom of the ladder, but clearly they're already earning enough to dress well, and they're probably armed. They tell Donal that they are there to keep an eye on what is being filmed and to make sure he doesn't go anywhere he shouldn't. Effectively, they are his Camorra escort in the slums of La Vela.
Tu ti sai comportare con loro, con noi, pure noi ci comportiamo con loro. Però se fai una stronzata o qualcosa di questo, che i morti fanno a noi, queste cose qua.
Just below these flats are the drug-dealing piazzas where every day thousands of addicts come to buy heroin and crack cocaine. The Camorra won't allow us to film there, but we secured this archive of what lay below.
Casa ci fa una vita solo per loro, da aspettare, se va venire a pigliare roba e se no.
A volte ci sono anche siringhe in mezzo alle scale. Per i bambini, erano Benevento, Battipaglia, Roma.
Viene a Milano, però non voglio vedere se no.
Il padre.
Il fratello.
Whilst in the estate, Donal meets a former addict and resident who explains what life is like in La Vela.
Non morrono sotto i porticali. Vanno a comprare la roba, si mettono sotto i porticali e si drogano. Dalla mattina alla sera le fanno queste cose qua. Ma mi sembra tranquilla, vedi? Mi sembra tranquilla, ma non è così. Non li vedi, però fischio. Vieni, ci vieni. Mammina, sta in coppa, La piglia un'amica mia. Va, sì, va, non ti preoccupare. Va, Gianni, vai. Va piano piano, questa. Non ti preoccupare, zio.
La Vela is a hellhole. A haven for drug addicts. And still, families were living there. It's a relief to get out. As he's leaving, Donal gets a call from a contact. It's a major breakthrough in his quest to talk to a Camorra member.
As we're discovering the Omerta, that code of silence really is very much alive on these streets. No one wants the secrets of the Camorra to pass by their lips. No one wants to be accused of betraying the secrets of the Camorra. So it's very difficult to get anyone to talk openly about their work and how they operate. Now, we have managed to track down 2 ex-Camaristas, 2 ex-members of the Camorra, who are going to talk to us about what they've done and the work they do. And it'll be fascinating to see just how far they let us into that inner circle, the inner world of this very mysterious mafiosi organisation.
This is an amazing opportunity for Donal to speak firsthand to those who have been directly involved in Camorra violence and criminal activity. Donal's on his way back towards the city, where the ex-Camaristas have agreed to speak to him.
What is the life of a Camarista like?
Perché quando facevo il camorrista nella propria vita io non pensavo a niente, perché ogni momento della mia vita pensavo che fosse l'ultimo, quindi era tragica come cosa, era triste, non ti aiutava a pensare di avere un futuro. Un camorrista non pensa di avere un futuro, vive nel presente. E mi piaceva assai, tantissimo, mi piaceva comprarmi i vestiti di Armani, di Valentino, tenere la sacca piena di soldi, camminare con i miei amici e tutti quanti mi dovevano guardare e abbassare la testa. Ero reverenziato dagli altri, dalla gente del quartiere.
What was it like for both of you? What was it like when there was infighting within the Camorra?
E ci ammazzavamo attorno a loro così, come se niente fosse una cosa normale.
Si vive in una maniera molto spaventosa, insicuri e paurosi di camminare, perché comunque poi è una sorta di non più vivibilità, non si vive più quando ci sono queste faide.
Colpiti a morte in un tempo brevissimo, perché sennò proprio a livello proprio organizzativo, cioè non ci riesci. Una volta che hai incominciato una guerra tutti quanti prendono delle precauzioni e non riesci più a beccare le persone per ammazzarle, non le trovi più. Mentre in quella guerra si trovava e si ammazzava tutti i giorni perché nessuno sapeva da che parte stare, perché a Napoli attualmente ci sono 40-50 guerre. Le guerre a Napoli non finiscono mai, si prendono delle pause, ma non finiscono.
There's so much to take in from a meeting with the Camaristas, but for me, one of the most crucial parts is that this city is really still at war. There is just a very uneasy peace declared, and it seems it could just take the smallest incident to trigger off another bloodbath. And that's not coming from me, the police, and other journalists. It's coming from the Camaristas, the ex-Camaristas themselves, the soldiers who fought that bloody and terrible war.
The Camorra in Naples are the biggest criminal organisation in the world. They are responsible for more deaths than the IRA, ETA and Hamas put together. They pose such a threat to the state that the government stationed troops on the streets in an attempt to wrestle back control. For over 200 years, the Camorra has terrorised the people of Naples. In that time, over 4,000 people have been killed. One of their most brutal hits was the murder of the priest Don Pepe Diana in 1994. Donal is returning to Casal di Principe with Silvana and the DIA to visit the Church of St Nicholas of Bari, where Don Pepe was killed. The new padre has agreed to show him around.
L'altare da cui Don Peppino Diana dove ha celebrato, e poi invece il posto dove ha ucciso lo vedremo dall'altra parte.
Don Pepe Diana was a padre who stood up to the Camorra in its fiercest stronghold, Casal di Principe. He refused to bury the Camorra dead and regularly denounced the church's very own omerta towards the mafia in Italy. Then one morning, as he prepared for Mass, a Camorra hitman entered the church.
Ecco, Don Peppino praticamente aveva qui il suo ufficio e quindi praticamente usciva anche se questa stanza praticamente era divisa in due, quindi l'uscita diciamo che era questa qui, e lui venendo da questa parte si avviava per andare verso l'altare, e il killer, dopo che gli è stato detto chi era Don Peppino Diana, più o meno da queste parti lo ha ammazzato.
Don Pepe was murdered in his own church. 2 bullets to the head and 2 in the face. A textbook Camorristi hit, warning others not to speak out.
Allora la comunità, dopo questa prima fase, soprattutto nei momenti più importanti, si è espressa massicciamente, perché poi c'è stata la chiesa del luogo, si è stretta intorno alla figura di Don Peppino Diana e ne ha fatto da allora un momento di anche un'immagine importante della lotta per la legalità.
The future for this town, this little city, is it still with the Camorra or the church?
Allora, il futuro di questo paese deve essere necessariamente con il bene e la legalità e la Chiesa che cerca di parlarne continuamente. Il futuro sarà con la Camorra per chi vuole continuare ad esserci, ma è soltanto per quelli che cerchiamo, speriamo che siano sempre più pochi.
Outside the church, Donal's speaking to Silvana about this brutal murder.
And tell us about the investigation into the murder of the priest.
Sì, le investigazioni nella morte di Peppe Diana hanno permesso, dopo un anno, nel 1995 di arrestare proprio Quadrano Giuseppe, che è stato il mandante dell'omicidio del prete. Noi lo arrestammo, in particolare io andai a Valencia insieme a personale della squadra mobile di Caserta, lo arrestammo e lui immediatamente diventò collaboratore di giustizia.
Donal also wants to find out what the future holds for Naples.
An army on the civil streets of any European country is an extraordinary thing. It shows you what a big battle you have to fight.
Yes, è un extraordinary thing, è una cosa straordinaria, lo so, anche in Europa è straordinaria. Tra la Camorra e lo Stato sì, c'è una guerra sempre tra la Camorra e lo Stato, perché la Camorra è l'antistato per eccellenza.
During his time in Naples, Donal has seen the frightening and far-reaching power of the Camorra. He's learned how it has evolved from a gang into a powerful criminal industry, taking advantage of the poor people of the city. The presence of government troops indicates their lack of control in the city. Unable to compete with the money, prestige and glamour of the Camorra, it seems that this is a battle they are losing. Many Neapolitans show the Camorra greater support than the government. Only when that loyalty reverts will the Italian state win the war and return the city of Naples to peace.